Alright, so we are going to do a world tree spread. And just going to see what pops up in this. We'll call it a moving forward. We're going to do it just on moving forward. Moving forward, leaving the past behind and moving forward. What's going to come up? Moving forward. All right, so the root. The top. Oh, wait. Yep. Got the branches. That wants to come out. 3. Four. Five. 6. 7. One more. 8. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. Okay. So 1 is the journey. Okay. What is the root of the issue? The journey. The journey, the journey. The journey. It's probably death. The journey is placed at Samhain, which falls on November 1st, All Hallows, or Halloween. It's associated with the waning moon and the elements of water and earth. It is the time of the dead. The solitary horned skull of reindeer line the forest, picked clean to the bone by the circling flock of ravens. The tattered remains of fur and flesh clinging to the bright bone, and here and there traces of the living blood of life, reminds us that all flesh returns to the earth from whence it came. One great raven sits beside it, the flesh of the reindeer in its beak, as both guardian and guide. Its unblinking eye is all-seeing and unafraid. In many traditions, the raven is guardian of the spirits of the dead. At the Tower of London, ravens once guarded the head of Bran the Blessed, buried in the White Mount to keep Britain's enemies at bay. So too the raven watches over the souls of those who fall in battle. Many misinterpretations of this card have been made over the years in attempts to avoid dealing with the essence of inevitability of death. On one level, death does translate to a simple expression of change, but however profound, extreme, and cleansing that change may be, that reading simply does not deal with the core experience and meaning of this card. Much taboo and fear surrounds death, particularly in the West, mainly instilled by the Christian Church's use of concepts such as eternal damnation, judgment, and repentance. Faint echoes of the celebration of a life successfully reaching the end of its journey are still found, however, in the concepts of the wake, where people drink and sing in joyous revelry at the passing of a friend or a loved one. Once the dead were not feared, they were seen as guardians, holy ancestors, holders of wisdom. Burial chambers were built with loving precision to align with the rising sun, and clans were buried together in sacred places that remain holy for thousands of years. Death was a part of life, part of the cycle of nature. Like the sun itself, many plants and animals died in the winter, but were reborn in the spring. The sense of loss was tempered with the joy of release and the promise of regeneration. Death acts as a reminder to us of the transient nature of life. Every moment is precious, and every living thing is sacred. As a metaphor for cyclic change, the journey is a required experience on the passage around the wheel. It may mean the death of old ideas or the concepts that have outlived their usefulness. It may be that it is time to strip to the bare bone the essentials of your nature so that fears and neuroses can be faced and cleansed. Amen to that. There may be some laying to rest with love and joy of long dead relationship or an old and bitter grievance. But the journey is not to be feared. It is an inevitable and natural part of life to be celebrated and accepted. Yeah, well, as the root of our moving forward in life, I think we nailed that one. Yeah. All right. So there we go. Death. Yeah. It's time to let go of the old. Like really, really all of it. All those old fears, all the old attachments, everything. Let it go. We got to do it. This is the year to do it. And on the other side of all of that, death is freedom. Right? Because we won't be carrying all that old stuff around with us anymore. Okay. Excuse me. All right. Number 2, branches. What are the possibilities of moving forward? All right. 5 of bows. Empowerment. Yeah, that's a great picture of a warrior holding a bow and a club. So empowerment. Yeah, this is going to be a super long reading because I'm gonna read through all these cards. I don't know this deck very well, and I do love the descriptions. So, if you're willing to go come along for the ride, thank you very much. And yeah, let's do this thing. Description: 4 unfletched bow staves lie like offerings before the mighty figure of the Cern Abbas giant, who holds a 5th in his hand, an ancient emblem of fertility. He has long been seen as an opener of the ways. Meaning, by facing and defeating our greatest fears, we empower ourselves and grow more resilient and effective against adversity. This leads to the individual's belief that they are no longer simply powerless. Yeah. The empowered individual ultimately has the capability to influence and affect the outcome of events and change perceptions. Yeah, I love that. So we're letting go of the illusion of powerlessness. We absolutely can change our lives. And by letting go of things, that's the best way. Best way to start with changing your life is going within and letting go of the things that you no longer need. It's just simply, it's the easiest way to make change happen. Lighten the load. Lighten the load. Okay. So that was the branches. That's the possibilities. I like that. Empowerment. Self-empowerment. That's what it's all about. That's what this journey is. Self-discovery, self-empowerment. It's about becoming our own parents, becoming our own gods and goddesses, to know that we have everything within us that we need in order to create the life of joy that we want. It may not look like what we thought it was going to look like, but you know, if your goal is to live an amazing life, an amazingly joyful and exciting and loving life, then who cares what it looks like, as long as it meets those goals, right? So 3 is east. What do you take with you? So, all right, we're letting go of a bunch of stuff, but what are we taking with us? Page of bows. Interesting. We're getting a lot of bows. Page of bows. That's also page of wands. All right, let's see here. Page of bows. With a fierce hunting instinct and its ability to live underground, combined with the changing color of its fur from white to red and its black tail, the 3 sacred colors of the ancient world, the stoat has a strong mystical link to the sovereignty of the land. Often you are seen as an emissary, and as such your gifts are widely recognized and honored. Your ability to perceive the truth in almost any matter is vastly helpful, and your freedom of spirit marks you out as an original and unique personality. Yeah, I love that. So we're taking that with us as our ability to, our gifts are the fact that our gifts are widely recognized and honored. Maybe not yet, but maybe they are, and we just haven't paid attention. You know, a lot of times people will tell us what our gifts are in odd ways, or very subtle ways, and we just aren't paying attention because we're so focused on creating something else. So it took me a long time to look back and realize that in so many instances in my life, people, they want to talk to me, and you know, they want to have a conversation with me, I kind of noticed that, but I wouldn't really think about it, like, what does this mean? Until just, like 2 years ago, when I really started to go, oh, this is a recurring pattern that's shown up all throughout my life, when I wasn't looking for it, when I wasn't expecting it. And so, I encourage you to do that same thing with your life. Like, what keeps showing up in your life, that maybe because you weren't working on it, or you were working on something else, you weren't really paying attention to it. So you didn't pay it much notice, and you haven't thought about, what does this mean for my life, right? Think about those little subtle hints of when the universe is just presenting you with, a person or a situation or some kind of feedback that's letting you know, like, what the universe really wants from you. Yeah. So learning to engage with life, devotion to an interest or a hobby, being able to jump into the thick of things. But I like the learning to engage with life, in order to see where life is telling you, hey, we like this about you and we want more of it. That's just so important. Yeah. And helpful. So west is, what do we leave behind? Okay. What do we leave behind? And that card is the wheel. Oh, very auspicious, huh? So the wheel, there's the wheel card. So we are leaving an old cycle behind. I mean, that perfectly works well with the death card, you know? We're going into a brand new cycle where we're gonna find out what the world has been trying to tell us that it wants from us so that we can get our sense of self-empowerment. Because when the world keeps saying, you know, there's that old adage about how to make a successful business. And it is, you know, find a product or a service that people really want and need and give it to them. Well, if the world is telling you, hey, this thing about you is what we want more of, then there you go. That just tells you right there. It takes all the guesswork out of it. So the wheel. All right. An Iron Age loom hangs between two hazel trees above a pool of still water. On the loom is an unfinished robe of ever-changing variety, woven with images representing the cycles of fate and nature. The wheel of the year is represented, and attached to the sleeves are feathers from the hawk, wren, swan, and kingfisher, sacred creatures to the wildwood. Above the robe, we catch a glimpse of the sun and moon in the sky together. 3 herons stand at the margin of the pool like hooded men, representing the fates awaiting the completion of the robe and the coming of its owner. The loom waits for the skillful hand of the unseen weaver to complete the pattern of possibilities and potential that constitutes fate and chance. So the meaning, the wheel traditionally represents the cycles of eternal law and evolution that all living creatures are governed by. Change is unavoidable and necessary if the cycles of nature are to remain alive and regenerative. But on the human level, we are the weavers of our own destiny. Consciously or unconsciously, we make the patterns and possibilities that mark our path through fate. We wear our fate around us like a cloak, carrying with us all the potential and possibilities that the universe has to offer. And although the seemingly random, chaotic nature of the universe always has the final word, we can affect our own life and that of the world by taking control of our destiny. Many believe that fate is set, that all things are predestined no matter what we do in this human reality. But the weaver of the cloak can affect this ever-shifting matrix of potential just by recognizing the pattern and making timely decisions. We can grasp the web of fate and weave our own special personal pattern. Although the jigsaw puzzle of probabilities and possibilities holds the universe together in a loose web of predictable events, nothing is set in stone. The very act of asking a question creates a whole new set of possible outcomes. But be aware, with this ability to weave our own destiny comes responsibility. Our actions are not without risk. If things are out of balance with the universe, the wheel will bring change in order to restore natural harmony of the web of fate. So in this, what I really got from all of that was that, those old patterns that we've been weaving for so long, it's time to leave those behind. It's time to let all that go. It's time to clear the patterns of the past and start something fresh and new, because we can do that at any time. We can let all those old patterns go and start something fresh. I mean, it's as simple as driving to work in a different way, getting outside of the web of your normal life, the patterns of your normal life, doing things differently, going out of town for a weekend, just to drive out to, a nearby town that has some kind of interesting, activity going on. Get outside of your normal patterns. Let those go. That's what spring cleaning is all about too. It's not just cleaning out your house. It's cleaning out your energies. It's cleaning out your thinking, your ways of doing, your ways of feeling. Like, let old stories go. Let old patterns go. Let old stories go. They are done. Since we are the weavers of our own web of fate, we can create new stories at any time. All creation happens right here in the present. So let's do that. Let's leave the old patterns behind. All right. So the next one is South. What do you hope for? All right. That card is the Queen of Vessels, the Salmon. So I believe that's the Queen of Cups, which, so for me, the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Pentacles. So the two feminine signs. The queens are, for me, the top signs of that suit. I know normally the king would be the top, but that's a very masculine way of thinking. And it doesn't understand the nature of feminine energy. And so the nature of feminine energy, because the masculine represents kind of the outward projection of that particular energy. And the feminine, the queen, represents the inward application of that particular energy. And so, but that's what feminine energy does. It goes inward, right? So the Queen of Cups is all about self-love. And the Queen of Pentacles is all about giving to yourself. And for those two things, because they're feminine energies, we're very good at projecting that energy outward. We're very good at giving to others. We're very good at loving others. But the reason why the queens are actually the top of those suits, the pinnacle of those suits, is that the hardest thing to do is to really love ourselves, and also to really give to ourselves, to receive the way we should. I mean, we even have that saying, it's better to give than receive, right? But no, you need to receive for yourself first. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to give. And so that's why that's important. So because if you don't take care of yourself, nobody else will. That's the way of the world. And so give to yourself first. Receive for yourself first. Love yourself the most. You should love yourself more than you love anything else in the world. All right, so Queen of Vessels. And yeah, when I create my own tarot deck, I'm gonna correct that error. Because we have to remember that the tarot decks were created during a very masculine-centric, patriarchal time, and that's just how they thought, right? It's it wasn't done on purpose. It wasn't malicious or anything. That's just is just how everyone thought, and but that's not correct. Queen of Vessels, here we go. Meaning, sacred in most shamanic systems, the salmon's ability to swim upstream to its birthplace and spawn is one of its most remarkable feats. The journey leaves the salmon exhausted, and most die in the attempt. Thus, they represent self-sacrifice. Ooh, not what we're going for. Salmon were said to swim in pools overhung by hazel trees and to eat the nuts of wisdom that fell in the autumn. Deeply caring and kind, the queen's spirit draws upon the great honesty, generosity, and self-sacrifice which she sees in you. She brings joy to the darkest places and addresses the most difficult problems with grace and civility. So I'm totally going to go, obviously this was written by a guy. And I'm going to say no. If we're going through a death cycle, and we're leaving all the old patterns behind, the most important thing we need is self-love. Like, love yourself more than you love anything or anyone else in this world, and you will be healthy. And that's not to say that you you don't love anything else, right? So being self-centered is not the same as being self-absorbed or selfish, right? Those are extremes. But being self-centered is what's actually healthy for every single human being. Needs to be self-centered, and you need to give to yourself first, and you need to love yourself more than you love anything else in this world. And if you do that, you will start to be healthy and happy. So that is definitely, what was that? That was the what do you hope for? Yeah, like loving ourselves more than anything else. Damn right. No self-sacrifice. That's feudalistic thinking. That's from the feudal times where people would sacrifice themselves for, someone higher than them. And we don't do that. We don't do that. If a parent were self-sacrificing for their children, they would eventually get worn out and be unable to take care of their children. And would that help the children? I mean, it's kind of like on the airplane. They say put your mask on first, then put your child's mask on. Because if you're busy trying to put your child's mask on first and you pass out, then both you and your child are in deep trouble. So no self-sacrifice. We're leaving that behind too. That's one of those old patterns we're leaving behind. All that thinking from thousands of years of feudalism. No way. All right. The number 6 card is, what do we fear? And it's good to know what our fears are because we need to address them and overcome them, because the only thing to fear is fear itself, honestly. And yet fear is such a powerful emotion that cripples so many people in so many ways. But it's just an illusion. Okay, the Knight of Vessels, the eel. Yeah. So the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups is really it's learning to love yourself, right? It's learning to be vulnerable. That's what the Knight of Cups is. It's really learning to be vulnerable. It's putting yourself out there. The Page of Cups is when you first start to want, to know yourself and to know, like what you love and what you value and what you treasure, and the fact that you want things, and in order to get all of that in the world, you have to be willing to be vulnerable and put yourself out there. So, and that is a huge fear for almost everyone, to be vulnerable, to put yourself out there, to let people see who you really are. But when you do that, all the people who are leaving your life, we all have this fear that if I really just be myself, people they're not going to like that, and they're going to leave. But all of those people who are leaving your life when you're really showing yourself as who you are getting out of the way for all the people who want to come into your life because they love who you are, and they've been looking for you and waiting for someone like you, right? So it's okay. It's okay to get rid of the things in our life that don't actually suit us, and being vulnerable is the best and quickest and most effective way to do that, to show who you really are, your truth. Guaranteed. Everyone who leaves your life is making space, making room for somebody who really wants to be in your life. And you only get that when you have the courage to be vulnerable. So let's do that. I love this. I'm loving this reading right now. It's so great. Okay, number 7 is the way through the woods. What enables you to engage with this issue? So how are we gonna deal with this fear of being vulnerable? Let's see what the cards say. Wow. So the Page of Vessels. We get a lot of cups cards. It's the Page. the Page of Cups is really going back to like working with your inner child. What do what do you really care about? Because when we were young, we knew what was in our hearts, and we really cared about that. But then, as we got into the world, especially where we had to get good grades, like perform like this or else, do these things or else, and then we have to get a job, and like we're desperate to get a job, because if we don't have a job, we won't have money, and then we're in trouble, and so during that hustle and bustle of trying to finish up school and become an adult and make money, and we forget what we really care about, what's truly in our hearts. So the way to gain our courage to be ourselves is to look back at ourselves and say, what do I really care about more than anything? What do I really care about more than anything else? And a good way to do that is to just imagine that you've won the lottery. Or that money didn't matter. Like say you won the lottery and list out all the things you would do. And I did that one time, and what I realized was, of course, there was a lot of things on that list that take a great deal of money. But the really interesting thing is I realized that there were a whole lot of those things on that list that didn't require any money at all. It just required a shift in my mindset. And the shift was no longer being afraid of losing my jobs or what people thought about me. Because if you've won the lottery and you've got, let's say $100 million, then you kind of don't care what people think, because you've got so much money. If if these people don't like you, you can just fly somewhere else and meet new people, right? But so what I realized was that those are the things that we need to do, regardless of whether we've won the lottery, because it's the stuff that's really important to us. And so it's a great exercise. I encourage you all to do it. Okay, so the last card, 8, the wisdom of the world tree, the hidden wisdom of the issue. All right, the hidden wisdom. What's the hidden wisdom? Queen of Arrows. That's interesting. So, all right, Queen of Arrows. All right. Getting closer. Queen of Arrows. All right. This graceful and powerful bird has long been associated with myth and legend. From the Greek Leda, transformed into a swan after mating with the Zeus in this form, to Elsa of Brabant in the stories of the Grail Knight Lohengrin. The swan is a strong and regal protector. Let's see. A state of separation may exist, bringing with it sorrow, privation, and misfortune. You may need to break old bonds and find new rivers in which to swim if you're to move beyond the place of darkness and loss. Facing unpleasant truth. Not bearing fools gladly. Sorrow from loss, assessing things astutely, rational explanations of scientific view, going to the heart of things. So yeah, the Queen of Arrows is it's also the Queen of Swords, and for me, the Queen of Swords is all about knowing yourself and creating good boundaries. So there's that great saying by Socrates, "Know thyself." Or the unexamined life is not worth living. But Socrates said, know thyself. And why that's important is when you really know who you are and you create that clear distinction between what you care about and what's right for you and what's not right for you. And we don't even need to judge it and say that it's wrong in any way, but it just, kind of like, you're taking out your sword and you're drawing a circle around you and you're saying everything on the inside of this is me, and everything on the outside of that is not me, which means not my cup of tea. It's not right for me. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not for me. Then you can really get clear about how you use your time and your energy and your effort in your life. And you can be really clear about something that isn't right for you. You don't engage in it at all. A good exercise that I like to do is, because everybody likes to do stuff that's stimulating and fun and interesting, even though it may not be healthy for you or helping you build long-lasting success. So if I get an urge to do something, I'll go, okay, I'll let myself do that. And then I'll say, and then what? Like what in what I'm saying by, and then what? It's like, and if I do this, where is this leading me? Is it leading me forward in my life? Or is it just a momentary flash in the pan experience that, while might be stimulating, isn't helping, and it's not moving me forward in my life. In fact, it might actually move you backwards, because a lot of times the most fun things, the most stimulating things we can do come with a lot of entanglements. So a good thing to say is like, okay, I've allowed myself to do this, and then what? And if there's no something after that, then you might say, maybe not. Now, if it's a minor thing, like going to see a movie or whatever, sure. But if it's a major engagement in your life, and it's going to take up a lot of your time and energy and effort or money, because money is energy, right? Same thing. Then you could say, okay, and then what? Right? Like, yeah, I want to go out and buy a really expensive car because it's going to be fun to drive. And then what? Where else could you have used that money? I mean, because honestly, I've owned expensive cars, and as fun as they are to drive, honestly, they didn't bring any more value to my life than really cheap cars that I had that were, didn't look so good, maybe not as fun to drive, but they still got me where I wanted to go, and they cost a whole lot less, and so I could have used that money for something else, right? So, allow yourself to go there and then ask the question, and then what? And that's the Queen of Swords. It's about knowing what's right for you. It's also, it's like when you get there's a job that maybe pay a whole lot of money. But if you really just don't feel good about the idea of doing that work, the money's never going to be worth it, right? And so that's Queen of Swords as well. It's knowing that it's more important to be engaged in your work, and work that really feels good to you, is interesting, than the money. Because then you go home and you have a lot of energy, and you can work on other ways of making money. But if you go home every night and you're just drained and you hate your life, no amount of money, it's going to take an awful lot of money. They would have to pay you and they're not going to pay you that much, because that's what companies don't do that. No company overpays its employees, right? So it's never going to be worth, the juice is never going to be worth the squeeze. And that's also, Queen of Swords. And it's also Queen of Cups and Page of Cups. It's about knowing who you are, knowing what your value is, knowing that you got to give to yourself first. And that if you do that, and if you're the Knight of Cups and you're vulnerable and you get out there in the world and let people see you for who you really are and what you're really interested in, you will get into those positions of working in things that really enliven you. And you'll be able to create wealth for yourself, however that looks. It will be enough because you'll be enjoying your life. So, okay, with that being said, I think let's pull a card from the Enchanted Map Oracle deck. I like this because it usually gives a really good message in terms of, like where you headed in life. Oh, that one right there. Okay, home. Interesting. 27. You are comfortable in your own skin. There we go. You belong. Peace, security, safety, belonging, and all the features one would want from home are indicated now. The home card represents an invitation to experience what it's like to be secure in your own skin, to live comfortably no matter what is happening in the world around you. It is a time for opening your eyes to your tribe of like-minded people or one special person who makes you feel like you've come home. Home is love, and love is all around you now. Whatever your inquiry, you are where you're meant to be and will reap great benefits by staying on this path, regardless of where it leads. Home will always be with you. It's where the heart is. Yeah, that's perfect. And I think we're going to end it on that. So thank you very much. And, I encourage you to leave all those patterns of the past, be vulnerable, put yourself out there, go for what you really care about this year. Let's do that so we can all start living our best life. All right, thank you.